Let me, for those of you who don't know CaPRI well, the Caribbean Policy Research Institute is a partnership between the University of the West Indies Mona campus and the local private sector. And its purpose was to create an independent think tank which can generate timely, high-quality, applied research on issues of pressing contemporary concern in order to accelerate the growth and the development of both Jamaica and the region. We depend on a number of overseas partners and a network of research associates around the world in order to be able to maintain that kind of cutting-edge quality research. And we have, on this particular initiative, combined with partners in London, the Caribbean Council, represented today by Ms. Stephanie Whittle. The Caribbean Council has assisted us in an initiative we're engaged in, which is trying to assess whether a social partnership, or what has in the past been called a social partnership. One of the things I've learned in recent days is that the term social partnership is not is a very laden term, and is probably one that we shouldn't be using when talking about this initiative. But whether it's a feasible strategy for putting Jamaica back on a path of really dynamic growth and addressing some of the pressing, now critical issues facing the country. And so we've invited Mr. Paul Haran into the island to speak with us and to also attend a series of consultations we've conducted in the last few days with key stakeholders in the local private sector, union movement, academe, and both sides of the political aisle. And it's been a very fruitful process, and out of that we'll be producing an interim report by the end of next week, which we will circulate to all of you, eager to get your feedback on whether or not this is, so that we can make a recommendation which will go into the public domain, which will be presented to the minister who's been given responsibility by the government, Senator Dwight Nelson, for this initiative, as to whether or not we, in an evidence-based way, conclude that it is or is not a viable strategy. So I want to welcome you all. It's a very august group. It's a very people who've themselves been involved in past partnership initiatives, people who have quite a degree of familiarity with perhaps the most successful model of it, Ireland. And of course, as I say, the key players who would make it work are present with us today. And so I thank you all for coming. I know you're all terribly busy, and it indicates the importance you attach to this initiative. The principal of UE Mona is in a board meeting as emergent business, so he has sent his apologies, and he's asked me to bring greetings on his behalf. And we will now, therefore, proceed right into the heart of the matter. We've invited the opposition spokesperson, who we met with earlier this week, to give some opening remarks, and he will be followed by the Minister, Senator Dwight Nelson. So I think I often say that when people preface comments by saying somebody needs no introduction and then go on to give a long introduction, it defeats the purpose. I think you will all agree that the two gentlemen to my right really do need no introduction, and you really want to hear what they have to say on this issue. So with no further ado, I'm going to invite Tony Hilton to give his opening remarks.
Good morning. Thank you for, first of all, CaPRI, for having the insight and the leadership on this very critical question, one that has, some might say, bedeviled us, others challenged us, whatever the choice of words. It has been an issue that we have been faced with for some time and trying to come to grips with for some time. I'm very pleased that you've been able to put together what seems to be a very distinguished grouping of persons to tackle this very challenging issue. And so I want to welcome the Minister, my good friend, Dwight Nelson, and other distinguished persons. I'd say at the outset that my remarks will be fairly brief of necessity because, one, I'd like to hear what Dwight has to say. Normally the Minister leads on these questions and the opposition follows. This morning it's a bit of a role reversal, and I think that is by way of discussion, prior discussion, because I have to chair a committee of parliament this morning, and so I'll have to sneak out, and I regret that I won't have the time to sit and to go through the entire proceeding, because I'm sure there's value to that, great value to that process. However, I'm a little bit, I'm not as concerned because I see one of my colleagues here, Mr. Mark Golding, who I will no doubt rely on to take copious notes and to download the information with me. I want to start by saying on the issue that the opposition, as a member of the opposition and previously a member of the government, we have, as I think is well known, sought to tackle this very necessary but difficult question. I say necessary because we had come to the view, meaning the then government, now opposition, come to the view that one of the imperatives of globalization, as we understand it, is a deepening of the democratic process. And it is so because issues that once was the preserve of government no longer can find its resolution solely within the confines of government. Anyone who has been in government, and I hope the opposition now, the opposition then and the government now, is coming quickly to appreciate that reality and that fact, that the government alone cannot and will not be able to resolve some of the difficult questions that faces us. And that's a different point of view than saying the government must lead. The government must lead on this and most other issues, not every issue, but most other issues, and certainly something as central to the workings of the society, to the economy, and our future must be something that the government must take a leadership role on. And therefore, the government's position on this question, I certainly want to hear what Dwight have to say, and I hope he states it very early before I have to leave. Because as in the opposition, whilst we were in government, my sense was that the government was at best ambivalent. Now, I may have had it wrong, but if I recall, the critical stage in which the then opposition did not participate in that process or refused to participate in the process. Now, no doubt there are good reasons for it, which they'll probably state. But the point is, if you hold the reins of government and you understand the challenges, the nature of the challenges posed to you, you will readily, and if you are responsive, you will readily have to accede that some of the issues, the critical issues that faces the government is not one for unilateral determination. So we had come to that view very quickly, and therefore the then government, now opposition, and unlike oppositions that oppositions are sometimes wanting to do, which is when you're in government, you have one view, and outside of government, you develop another attitude and another viewpoint. This opposition remains steadfast in its view that the social partnership is a critical and necessary undertaking, that as a country we will have to find the wherewithal, we'll have to find the means, we have to find the formula for getting the social partnership in place and working.